Welcome, everyone. Simon Rosenberg, Hopium Chronicles, back with another terrific event. Joining me today is Iowa Democratic Party Chair, Rita Hart. Welcome, Rita.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So listen, we have been doing, we started a series of interviews with important Democratic Party chairs around the country to get their take on things 7 months into Trump's terrible second term. And to talk about the strategic opportunities that they have in the state. So just walk us through a little bit about what you're seeing now. I mean, here we are. You're going to have a couple competitive House, at least a few competitive House races, maybe a competitive Senate race. You have an incumbent senator who made a little bit of news recently with some interesting remarks. I mean, just give us the lay of the land from Iowa.
Sure. Well, I will start with the governor's race because, that's going to be the top of our ticket. And we're very sure that we're going to have an incredibly competitive governor's race. We've had Republican control in this state for too long, and it's showing. And so we've got a situation where we are not doing well economically in comparison to other states. We're 49th in the country as far as economic growth is concerned. And we've had, I can talk a little bit about that situation later, but as a result, there's a lot of unhappiness here. And so what I'm seeing on the ground here in Iowa is a lot of Democrats who are very upset, who recognize that it's really important that everybody steps up and does their part. And the great thing about that is a lot of folks have thrown their hat into the ring. And so we've got a competitive governor's race with Rob Sand, and we've got a primary there with a couple other folks. I'm trying to remember Bob Kraus and Julie Stouch also are in the primary, but we know that this is going to be an incredibly competitive race here to get the governorship. And if we can win the governorship here, that's going to be a game changer for Democrats here in Iowa. And it's really crucial that we do it because no matter who they put up for a Republican candidate, they're going to follow the same pathway that Kim Reynolds has laid out. And that's why we're in trouble economically. As last cycle, we saw that the Republicans had to dip into the savings accounts at almost $1 billion in order to pay for the things that they have in their budget. And that's only going to get worse as the education vouchers are coming in more into play this coming year now that the income limits are off. And they've changed to a flat tax system, which has changed the revenue stream. There's just so many reasons why. And in addition, our economy in general has been struggling because of the farm economy, right? So we've got a very competitive governor's race. We've got a U.S. Senate race that now has suddenly become very competitive. As you mentioned, we have Joni Ernst here, who made a lot of headlines with a very callous remark that I think again came about because she was really being challenged at her town hall over her votes concerning Medicaid. And this big bad budget busting bill is truly going to affect us here in Iowa. And so folks expressed that by saying, people are going to die. And her callous remark saying, well, we're all going to die, did not go over well. It got picked up by a lot of media. And then she showed just how callous she is by doubling down on that with a video that she purposely taped in a cemetery, right?
Yeah.
It really, I think the Republican Party has been accused a lot of being uncaring, of being cruel. She really fed into that narrative, right? And in contrast, we have 5, maybe 6 in the end candidates here for the U.S. Senate who are strong candidates with great resumes, who are committed to a life of public service and are putting their names on the ballot for all the right reasons. They want to see some better results. And I would tell you that we have 4 congressional races, that 2 of which have already been targeted. And we know that there's going to be a lot of attention on all 4 of those seats because we've got primaries in all 4 of them. And again, those 2 seats that are already targeted, we're very sure that we're going to have an opportunity to flip those 2 seats, and we'll see what happens in the other 2.
Yeah, the DCCC, the National Party, is very optimistic. We came very close in 2 of those races. We supported Christy Bohannon last time, who's a terrific candidate, who very impressive. I know she's running again in, I think it's Iowa 1, right? Am I getting
Correct.
it, or is that?
That's right.
Yeah. When I lived in Des Moines in the 1980s for the Dukakis campaign, I was a desk for Eastern Iowa, but in those days there were 6 congressional districts, so I had 1 and 2 on the eastern part of Iowa, and so I get them a little confused when I when I think about them today. But you've got a lot going on this year. I mean, it seems like
there is a lot
with all these
on.
with these primaries and all these candidates, it's creating a lot of action and activity to engage people, in across the state. I mean, it seems like to be a blessing for you if you want to use this as a year to rebuild and regenerate and to grow back some of the power that you've had in the past. Having all these candidates running must be a blessing for you.
It's definitely a blessing, and it's just indicative. I've been telling folks that this is just a sign that says Democrats in Iowa have not given up. Right? They are not ceding this ground. They know that that things are not going in the right direction, and it's time for change. It's time for better leadership. And so, as a result, that we've got more candidates than we've seen earlier in the cycle than we've ever seen, and that really is a blessing for us. I'm very encouraged by the fact that not only are people interested in running and that we've got primaries in all of these races, but it's quality candidates, right? And I think part of the reason too is that we have managed to overperform in several special elections since 24, right? We flipped a seat, my old state Senate seat. We managed to flip from Republican to Democrat, and as a average over the 3 special elections we've had so far, we've overperformed by 25 points.
Wow, amazing.
So that is very impressive. And I would tell you the one other thing about that, because I think that the reasons for that is that we've run very strong candidates. They have run not so strong candidates, and we have really worked hard on our organization. I've just started as chair of this Iowa Democratic State Party about 2.5 years ago, right after the 22 election. And we had a long ways to go, but we've done a lot of great work over these 2.5 years. We went from being on very tough financial ground to being very stable financially. And we were under debt. We managed to get rid of that debt. We're seeing people show up at rallies and protests and demanding that their representatives represent them better by having town halls. People are involved, they're engaged. Our odd year caucus was very well attended. This tells me that people not only have they not given up, but they know how important it is to flip these seats, and they know that our chance is in 26, because the only way we're going to get out of this is to vote our way out of it.
Well, and it seems, one of the things that I'm curious about as part of our, you're sort of an expansion state from a national perspective, right? That if we have to grow and learn how to win in more red places and red states across the country, Iowa is an area of opportunity for us this time. And it's something we have to, give a lot of consideration to. And I just wonder your reflections on how the conversation is going in the state about the ag economy and rural economic opportunities, because it seems like Trump's agenda, and this is now me speaking as a guy living in Washington, D.C., that the combination of the mass deportation agenda, which is having an effect on, we lost you here, Rita. Let's see if we can get you back here in a second. We're going to filibuster. I've got a really good question for her when she comes back, and I know Lincoln is working to get the chair back here because she's doing a great job. And welcome back,
Yeah,
Madam Chairman.
sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. We've had some technical issues today. Wait, Lincoln, bring her back. There we go. Welcome back. And so what I was going to ask is, it seems like that Trump, who is at the end of the day a city guy, right, and an urban guy and a rich guy from New York, that the combination of the tariffs, which are raising prices and also potentially going to make foreign markets a little bit more challenging for some of your farmers, for the mass deportation strategy, which is in some cases exacerbating worker shortage and agricultural worker problems, because he's not just deporting people, they're also making it more difficult for farm labor and immigrants who work in agriculture to come here. The attack on, the gutting of the ACA and Medicaid, which is going to is going to have significant impact on rural access to healthcare in rural areas. It seems like that all of these together are creating headwinds in the rural economy and in the country that may give Democrats an opportunity to speak to parts of the country that have been difficult for us to reach in recent years, and particularly because Trump really represents, this kind of urban, wealthy guy that doesn't really care about all those rural people in a way that is not his brand, but is now true in what they're actually executing on the ground as president.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that people are looking for somebody who does have their best interests at heart, right? And he talked that game. He told them that that's who he was. But I think the more you looked at the reality there, it was so surface, so not really very true. I don't think he understands how agriculture works at all, right? If he did, he would not go after tariffs the way he has. The first time in his first administration, when he started talking about tariffs, I got up on the Senate floor. I was a state senator at that time, and I wrote him a letter, and I said, please understand that the Iowa economy is totally affected by the farm economy. So many things roll off of the farm economy. So many of the manufacturing and the other ways that we employ people and the ways we make money in Iowa are totally dependent on the ag economy. So when you mess with tariffs, it's a danger to all of our economy. And historically, there's no doubt that tariffs hurt farmers the most, right? Well, that did not get heeded at all, and as a result, things were a little bit better for farmers at that time. Today, we're in the same boat, but he's done it before, and he's doing it again. But we've already seen the effects of it, right? I mean, our corn prices are as low as we can go with. I mean, people are not making money today at $4 corn. They just aren't. And as a result, we're seeing layoffs by the manufacturers. We know that this is truly going to, as you've pointed out, as it happened last time, it is going to affect the markets. They're going to find other ways to get around this, and that's going to be at Iowa farmers' expense, right? So it truly is scary for a lot of people, and it means hard times. So is that an opportunity for Democrats? Well, I hate, the reality there is that people need to understand who really is sticking up for them. And I think that's the bottom line, is that Democrats have always stuck up for working people. They want to make the economy work for everyone. And we knew that tariffs were not going to be good for farmers, were not going to be good for the farm economy. That came true. So what happened? They had to get bailed out. They bailed out the farmers, right? Are they going to be able to do that at the same level? And is that the way to make the farm economy have a lasting strategy that is truly good for farmers? And And does that feed into what we know is a big problem now with family farmers, small family farmers struggling to survive, and instead you have to go big or go home. It's feeding into all the wrong things when it comes to the farm economy, and that truly is, we know, going to be negative for all of us here in Iowa.
So talk a little bit about, before we go, about your program and about what are you going to do? What's the Iowa Democratic Party going to do to get ready for 2026? And we know that Chairman Martin and Jane Klebb, my dear friend, have implemented a new campaign or new program to make unprecedented investments in the state parties and also help you raise your game and build better parties. What do you want to do personally with the party over the next year or so if people were to choose to invest to help you in Iowa?
So again, yeah, we have to invest in the people is right? And so I was pleased that first of all, I'm pleased that we've been able to stabilize this organization. When I started, we had 2.5 staffers, and that was just barely enough to keep the lights on and keep us out of jail, right? But we have 9 or maybe 10 now full-time staffers. That gives us the ability to do all the kinds of programming work that we need to do in order to engage the volunteers, in order to provide the resources, in order to provide the training, because that's what the Iowa Democratic Party does, is it establishes the way people can get involved, and that their involvement is going to actually turn into the kind of work that results in votes, right? So we have here at the Iowa Democratic Party, we have a data system, we have an organizing system. I was lucky enough to be able to raise enough money so that we were able to hire 5 interns this summer who are doing the kinds of work all across the state that we need to do, because our county party system is so important to this, right? If we have active, engaged county parties, all 99 county parties active and engaged and working with local folks to recruit good people for office, to do the kinds of connections where we have people out knocking doors and making phone calls and raising money and doing the things that engaging with the voters. But that's the number one thing for me. We've got a long ways to go to really create a better relationship with folks. We know that for all the reasons we've kind of intimated here in our conversation today, that we're a divided country. That's true here in Iowa too. So many people have stopped talking about politics because it's so divisive. They don't like it. And I think the polls will tell us that too, that people are unhappy with politics in general because of the divisiveness. We've got to have these kinds of conversations with folks to help them to understand that we're all in this together. But some of these people that are putting their names on the ballot do not have the priorities straight for the average working person. And that's what I have to do as a Democratic Party chair, is to create the kind of volunteer organization that can get out and have those kinds of conversations, get people to know our candidates and understand why these candidates truly are the kinds of people that you want representing you, whether that's in the state house, whether that's and in Congress, or whether that's for governor, right? And down the ballot as well.
Well, listen, I'm really glad you've been able to take time to be with us today. I mean, Iowa is going to be one of the most important, the way we're using in our language, expansion states this cycle, where there is opportunity for us to take back things that we used to have or to grow our support. We're going to have competitive, as you heard today, gubernatorial, Senate, and House races that are all giving us enormous opportunity. If this is the midterm that we think is going to play out, where Republicans are going to be struggling as they already are, we're going to have opportunities all across the country. And the key is we need to be investing early. We need to be rallying, giving the resources to people around the country to be able to take advantage of that opportunity when it comes. I mean, this is why the kind of early investment in state parties or in candidates and the early work that we're all going to do together really matters this cycle, because I think this is a cycle of opportunity for us. And so, Madam Chairman, thank you so much for being with us today. And I will say one last thing is that I tell people, my first campaign that I ever worked on was in Iowa. The first time I ever worked on a political campaign, the Dukakis campaign in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was lucky enough to have to drive around the district, my part of the state, which was the eastern part of the state. And I just reflect upon a drive that I took up to the northeast corner along the Mississippi River. I think it was Winneshiek and Almakee counties, right up in the very corner. And I will tell you that it really, when I think about the concept of God's country, I think that's the closest that I've ever come to in the United States. It is among the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I felt so lucky to be able to spend so much time in such a wonderful place back in the early part of my political career. So my heart is always there with you in Iowa, and after all these years later. And thank you for you stepping up, and hopefully we can rally a few people to help you out here in the coming months.
Yeah, that's a great testimonial to Iowa. And that really does make the point that, if we can win in places like Iowa, then we can win across the country. And that's why it's so important that we invest in the state, that we do the work that it takes, that we start bringing people together and electing good representatives. So
listen,
important.
good luck. Thank you. And hopefully we'll have you back in a few months to get an update on your
I would love it. Oh, great.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Simon. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, everybody. There we go. Another terrific interview with one of the people on the front lines of this incredible battle, this cycle of opportunity that I think we have, and these incredible elections that are going to be so important. Because as we talk about here, our job is to mitigate the damage he's doing and also to win back power in order to give our democracy a chance in the future. So thank you all for being here. Watch this series of interviews we're doing with the leading state party chairs across the country, so you can hear from them directly about the challenges and opportunities they have as we all go out to prepare for this critical election. Thanks, everybody.